If you're feeling hungry and you like to eat lunch halfway through the day, do give us a call on 112233. And we'd love to hear your stories. One time I was hungry. It was actually mid-afternoon.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Business Anchors podcast, the show where two business owners discuss the weird world of business. And today we're delving deep into the failures and struggles we've learned the most from in our business, hoping it'll make you laugh and maybe even save your business. Double whammy. I punched the mic during that intro.
I noticed that.
Other podcasts would re-record that.
We're not going to.
No. You know, we're just authentic.
Yeah.
So that was actually my wedding ring that time on...
yeah.
So
that's one of the biggest struggles, isn't it, in the business? Us both punching the mic when we're doing a podcast.
Yes. It seems only in the last few episodes we have a real habit of punching our mics, which is terrible for a podcast.
Yeah. I think this is going to turn out to be a really good chat.
Good, hopefully.
I do. I genuinely do.
I hope so for the listeners.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few challenges that I think will be interesting to hear about, and also how I've overcome this. That'll be valuable and interesting.
Yeah. I think it's that thing of like talking about rubbish things that have happened to our business and then it was all right because we did this.
Yeah.
It's like people will face these challenges in the future
and hopefully
and not know yet.
Yeah.
And then go, oh yeah, well I heard this is the good thing to do. And then they'll go, oh my God, Dan Lloyd is so good. And we'll all feel great.
Yeah. So tell me about what one of your biggest struggles or challenges, or how you do want to shape it? Because we don't know what we're going to say, do we?
One thing, I'll keep it fairly generic.
Okay.
Not involved with anyone that's involved with the business now.
Okay.
But something I really struggle with in our business is when we've trusted someone and they've gone against our trust.
As in, you've struggled to deal with that in your mind? Or
yes,
as in
yeah. So initially, when we worked with someone who we trusted, and then stuff happened and realised we couldn't trust them, and
I really want to know what that is now.
It's something that made it hard for me over the next
to trust other people.
Few months, because then I thought, like, I genuinely trust everyone at the start. I trust everyone, unless I'm given a reason not to trust someone that I meet. So it made me kind of question myself for quite a long time afterwards, and getting quite a negative space of, oh wow, if someone's not being honest with me,
how do I know anyone else? Yourself for who you can trust.
How do I know other people aren't? And it made me feel.
That's interesting, because I think I'd go the opposite way, and I'd put that person into a separate box and go, okay, well they're not trustworthy, but that doesn't mean someone else isn't going to be trustworthy. I also
it ate me up inside. Kind of with that person, and I think I suppose what we said about is learning from these things and how, because this is in business. It's like a lot of industries as well. It's like dog eat dog with competitors and people within your own. If you're an employee listening, it's like your colleagues or whatever trying to get one up on you and going to your boss behind your back and going, "Yeah, they mucked that up a bit, but
I don't think
I've done this."
That's quite a generalisation. Are you saying in some situations?
Yeah, I'm saying it's something that happens in business, in the world of business sometimes. Yeah. Obviously, you'd hope only in businesses that have a very bad culture and stuff, but that can happen. Yeah. And there's some industries, it's in like finance and law and journalism. I think they're industries where it's very you're basically trying to climb the ladder, so pull everyone off, chuck everyone off the ladder so they can fall to their death. But what I have learnt, and what I learnt from that situation is, even looking at that exact situation, putting myself in the other person's shoes, that kind of I felt went against the trust I had in that person.
We're trying to be empathetic to that where they were.
Using empathy. And it's actually like, when you put yourself in that person's shoes and you genuinely do, you get to a point where you're like, I am them. My life is their life. Yeah. I don't know the things.
You don't know all the other things.
I don't know all the other stuff going on. nearly all the time, because people very rarely do things just to be a nasty person.
It's like that thing of if you're in traffic and someone's like hooting and like
we mentioned this previously, didn't we, with road rage.
Road rage, that's it. You don't know if like they've had a bereavement or something terrible's happened to them.
If you genuinely forget your emotions that are linked with it and think like, oh, actually,
something might
to say. I'll use an example that isn't this example because I can't talk about it. So this is completely different. But say like we wanted to work with a partner that's another agency, and we had this good faith between us and stuff. And then they've gone behind our back to like take one of our clients or whatever. Yeah. I think if you look into that, I think most of the time you'll kind of, if you get into it, it might be like, actually their business, we realise, is failing.
They have to sack all their staff.
They don't want to act like that, but they're in such a desperate position that they're making bad decisions.
Still doesn't make it
like
right,
that.
though.
No, it doesn't make it right. But it makes you be able to kind of feel like, oh, they're in that situation. That's why they've done it. They're not doing it just because they hate me and they're trying to be a complete arsehole to me. It's like they're in this tough situation. They've made a bad choice, but you can see what could have led them there, and it then makes you feel really more at peace with. Okay, it's not like the world's against me and I should never trust other people.
I guess, how do you remember, I guess isn't like a lesson learned, something people can action. How do you remember to do that? Just try and think about this next time something annoys you or upsets you. Try and think,
I think
how are they feeling?
If ever you feel like trust is broken between you and someone else in business, or, well, I suppose in life in general.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, do your best to like literally go so far as to imagine you are them in such detail and what they may be going through.
Can I share one example of a recent podcast I listened to where this was a really extreme example of that?
Okay, yeah.
The Diary of a CEO, Steve Bartlett's podcast I always talk about. He interviewed recently a guy on there who tells the story of he thought he was in a happy relationship with his wife and he's got kids and stuff, and he got home one day and his wife just told him that she's had an affair and stuff, and he talks through. Just punch the mic again. He talks through, which I found so impressive, how he actually forgave her and his mental process of understanding, and when you listen to that, the steps he went through, it's amazing to realise how someone can be that sort of strong to take a step back of a really emotional situation and then actually go through a process to overcome that kind of trauma.
I think it's a big thing in relationships, even relationships like that, like your partners or whatever. Even if there's small things that goes on in your relationship and you have a discussion where like one or both sides aren't happy about something, if you are able to take a step back and take the emotion you're feeling out of it and put yourself in a completely neutral situation as well as theirs. If you're honest with you, well, when I do this, if I'm honest with myself, a lot of the time I come to a point where I'm like, I understand why my wife,
paradox.
Why my wife might not be happy with that. Because actually, looking back, I've done these things that I haven't really thought about, but that would make me feel.
What is your chimp, like Lloyd? What is your chimp?
What is my chimp?
Yeah.
You all right?
I know, the chimp paradox, the book.
Yeah, I can't. But what do you mean by what is my chimp?
Oh, do you not remember that? You read it and told me about it.
I read it a long time ago. I can't remember.
The book where it says that different parts of your brain, you've got a chimp part, which is your emotive part.
As in you wanted me to explain that?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we've discussed this on the podcast previously as well, but the chimp paradox. So the chimp is your emotional reaction, usually comes first. So my wife says, really not happy that you keep putting this on the floor and I'm tripping over it.
This is a real issue, isn't it?
My chimp's like, well, I'm not happy that you're doing this rubbish thing. And that's just my emotional thing of like, I think it's something that you're not doing.
Yeah.
When you step
Whereas
back,
a logical thing.
That's
probably quite annoying.
That would be rubbish for her when she trips over that all the time.
Because you always tend to put your clothes in the corner of the room, and she hates it, doesn't she?
This is just an example. It's all.
But yeah, sorry, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's cool. Trust and how I think that was an issue in our. Yeah. What about you, Dan?
I think one of the biggest challenges for me has been being consumed by social media and screen time. I think even to this day, I think it's still a challenge. The first thing I do when I wake up is reply to comments on our social accounts. The last thing I do before I go to bed is do the same. And throughout the day, I constantly do it. but it's not any weird pressure I put on myself. I think I've just conditioned myself to do it, and I think I need to be more proactive in making myself not do that as much. But it's that weird thing that it's what's the thing, the serotonin stuff that it releases when you get dopamine, when it's like a vicious circle of I just punched the mic in. It's a vicious circle of engaging online and people saying nice things, and it encourages you to do it more. So I think one of the biggest challenges I face is spending too much time on my phone, and a big part of that is because that's part of our whole job, sort of social media and things. So yeah, I think how I am trying to overcome it is by becoming aware that it's an issue, by looking at my screen time and being worried by it. And then...
So do you think that the reason this is a big issue for us and our kind of business, because how it affects you, if you know what I mean? Like, affects you as a person?
No, I think it's not me as a person. I think it's how it potentially affects my family, because I'm on my phone. I'm completely happy doing it.
Oh, so sorry. So I was coming at this like thinking struggles in business and how we've overcome them. But you're actually thinking as a business owner that this
something
is,
to do with
this
our
is
business.
Something painful that relates to actually your family life that you wouldn't want to fall into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But that's one of the things I'm aware of. And
yeah. Nice.
Give me another challenge, Lloyd.
I think... let me do I was going to say a boring one. That's not a good way to
Lloyd,
say.
you really haven't got this whole podcasting marketing thing, have you?
I mean like an operational type thing in business that's like not like emotions involved and stuff, but it's like something. So basically,
this is where everyone switches off.
Yeah. Fast forward 5 minutes. Basically, dealing with people not paying your business. So if this hasn't happened to you yet, it will if you continue in business. You can, as good as your business is and lovely people you work with, at some point someone will just disappear and try not to pay you. You're right, you're smiling at me.
No, because I thought you were going to tell the story of where we thought we were doing really well, and then we looked in the bank.
Oh, yeah, that was part of it. Like, me and Dan just used to look, our main kind of thing we looked at was profit, which was based on what we'd invoiced.
Yeah.
Not money in the bank, what we invoiced and our costs. So, it makes sense. It's like, this money we've invoiced, that's going to come to us.
Had some great Excel
this money we've
spent.
So, we made this. So, yeah, we got to a point where we're like, profits, Grandma, we did so well. Oh, there's no money in the bank. And yeah, an issue that was an issue with kind of procedures, financial stuff, to actually chase people up to pay us.
Yeah.
But I mean, so why it's been a struggle, there's been a couple of things in the past where people haven't paid for various reasons, and we've done our job, and it's kind of like, well, this is rubbish. And I think that's another thing. I said emotions don't come into it, but when you run a business or when you've worked hard on something, even if you're the employee in the business, and then for whatever reason that work isn't paid for, it kind of makes you feel like
angry, upset.
You're like, it's kind of like worthless. Like, well, I've put all this work into something and someone doesn't value it enough to, and so it can be quite a negative thing hanging over you. And certainly as a business owner and kind of my position, if someone's not paying or not paid, it's something every day. It's kind of like that thing on the list of like, oh yeah, and I still need to work out what to do with that because they haven't paid. But the things this is the boring things to learn from it.
Yeah, go on.
It's basically even if you're what's the cool word these days? Solopreneur.
Right.
Basically, you work on your own. Yeah. Don't think, I'm just a small business. I don't need written agreements or contracts and things like that. Like in reality, we don't call ours contracts because I don't know if they would hold up in a court of law, but we always have written agreements where basically we say what we're going to do for the client, and we also lay out expectations for them. What do we need them to do to successfully do our job? Because we don't have control of that, so we need to make sure that they agree to that. And then we we ask them to sign it before we start working with them, and that has prevented so many issues, because if you set out their things they need to do as well, if they're like, we're not paying because you haven't done this, it's kind of, you can then say,
the evidence
in our agreement, these 4 things
emails and these phone
you said
calls.
you'd do, you haven't done those, which hasn't allowed us to do what we've agreed to do for you. You're in a very good position, and that has helped us get paid by someone who didn't want to pay us in the past.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing about that?
Payment processing and stuff. That's something that I know you've.
Yes. Yeah. Just the processes of chasing up payments.
What did we used to do? We used to
not much.
Do work, and then at the end of the month.
So if we
days
finished a project on January 2nd, we do all our invoicing on the 30th of January. So we complete a big project January 2nd, wait till the 30th, then invoice it with a 30-day payment period. So if they paid on time, sometimes we'd get paid 3 or 4 months after we'd started a project, which just doesn't make sense for a business and cash and stuff. So just having things in place like, oh no, we will invoice as soon as the project's completed, and we're going to ask for payment in 15 days. We're going to chase it up on the 15th day to make sure they haven't forgotten it.
What's that tip you spoke about before, where you kind of share the data of, if someone isn't paying, you say, 95% of our clients pay on time, and you're in the 5% that doesn't. So please, can you pay on time?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tactic really, but something that does normally get things paid is if you genuinely look at who pays on time. Yeah. So if it is 90% of your clients pay on time,
and there's
one that doesn't,
group,
like kind of pointing that out quite often makes people feel like, oh god, I'm one of the rubbish ones, I didn't realise. Yeah. So just having a note at the end of your invoice, standard invoice, or if you're chasing something, 90% of our clients pay on time, so please do what you can to pay on time. But I think with this finance stuff in business, what I've learned is that these boring procedures and these operational financy things that help you be in a good place actually allow you to enjoy running a business so much more, or enjoy growing a business, because
less stress.
If you don't have those things in place, yes, it will take you some time to set up these things, but once they're set up and working, it means you can do the good stuff. Yeah. You don't have to be chasing stuff and dealing with grievances of people that, it wasn't clear what I was paying for. I don't, and I think people don't see it like that. They just think, that's a boring thing. Do I really want to spend my time doing that?
But it's so worthwhile.
But it allows you to enjoy the good stuff, basically.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. You got anything else?
One other thing for me, I think just analysing myself is, I've had a challenge in the past with tunnel vision. With when I have a certain task, and this was a real thing in the early days when we were building the website, because there was so much, it was a real time suck and took loads of time up. When I've got something I need to focus on, if it's not complete, I really struggle to focus on anything else. So I'm like, something else more important could come up, but because I haven't completed this one thing, I feel really rubbish and I can't focus on the other activity. So I think that's something but again, in terms of learning from that, I think being self-aware of these types of challenges and then knowing that, you've had to constantly reinforce this to me, because I've spent days doing something that's not a good use of my time, and you've told me, and it's having that reinforcement of that's a really random challenge.
But I think that self-awareness, going back to the previous episode, Gary V, we didn't talk about self-awareness. That's a great one, by the way, self-awareness. But I think being aware, trying to look at yourself and things that may be weaknesses, and not just, because I think it's quite easy for us as people to realise we have a weakness but ignore it because it's not nice to think about. So if something like that's happening and you're thinking, this probably isn't the best thing for me to be doing, don't just go, I'll just forget about it and keep doing it. Being aware, looking at what you're doing, analysing it and making changes. Really.
You got any more challenges?
Yes,
go on.
I
then.
Certainly have. So dealing with troughs.
Oh, okay.
So as in business income over time, you got peaks and troughs. So no one just has a straight line going, this is how much money's coming in the business.
And if they tell you that, they're lying.
Yeah, there's ups and downs. So the challenge of running a business when you have ups and downs is, other than the emotional roller coaster of what's going on. So you have either your own time or lots of employees' time and your team. And if you go in, you have these peaks of, oh my God, we've got so much work going on and so much money flowing into the business, so much profit. This is great.
Let's party.
We're all busy. Let's do all this stuff. We need extra help. And then you go into a period, which we've had fairly recently, actually, a bit of a trough in our wiggly line. And then you've got sort of, you haven't got all that work, you haven't got all that money flowing in freely to the business. You've got to be a bit more careful. And I think as a business owner, that's really challenging, to manage your stress levels of, well, hang on, we had 3 times the income last month and now we've got this. Is something going wrong? Is this all failing? What do I need to do? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Should I be doing more? Should I be...
changing what we're doing completely?
Yeah. And I know because you're kind of head of sales and marketing in our business, Dan, I know you have struggled with this feeling a lot of you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not getting the sales I need to, so I'm not feeling good about this, which I suppose is something you have to strive to do more. Yeah. But you don't want to get to a point where you're stressed about it and stuff. And
no, I don't think being honest, I don't think I've rarely felt stressed and really rubbish. I think what I have felt is more pressure sometimes when there's less of the pipeline's less full, because we like we mentioned earlier, we've got these lead indicators to know how many unconverted deals do we need in our pipeline to be hitting up our forecasted sales targets. And if I'm not hitting those numbers, which I haven't in the past, then it's more pressure on me, like, wow, I need to be putting more time in, and I do, and then we overcome it. But it's that kind of stopgap of not looking good at the moment.
But do you know why I think it's not stressful for us and rubbish because of things we do.
Yeah, go on.
And things we've developed over time. So I have something I feel strongly about in business, which is your income isn't your income. So again, I think mainly with smaller businesses, but a lot of businesses have a bank account and they get paid money in a month. And it's like,
that's their current account.
I made loads of money this month, and like that's your money to spend.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get a new.
So if
fridge.
you have peaks and troughs, in the peaks, if you're like that in business, you take you've got that money out of the business, and you're like, oh, do you know what? You just go back home, you're all happy with yourself, say to your wife, yeah, I think we should book a holiday. And actually, I think we can afford that car that we wanted to get. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is great. But when you get to a trough and
then
you've made a loss or you've made a very small profit and you've got no money, you're then in a really good point. Really stressed situation. So I always try and think that your income isn't your income. Yeah. So separate the money coming into the business to the money you have as a business owner personally at all. It's a completely different thing.
The interesting thing is, when we convert a significant deal in the business, for the last few years, I've never thought, oh, that's more money in our pocket at all. Like you don't think like that. That's not impacting our salary really, is it?
We haven't got stressed in our most recent trough is because when we had peaks, we're building up the money within the business to make up for those troughs. And I think it sounds so simple when you say it, and it's like it's allowed me to be stress-free when we've been quieter.
Which is way more valuable than having a
lot
new
of
car.
Business owners have these stresses of, at the end of the month, how am I going to pay our staff?
Yeah.
Genuinely, month to month, that's, every other month might be the thing, I don't know if I'm going to have enough money in the bank. Maybe I have to put some more money from my personal account into the business to pay this guy's wages.
Because they've taken out I think peaks.
A lot of businesses work like that, and that's such a horrible place to be, and I would hate to do that. So I just think it sounds simple, but not many people do it, especially the smaller businesses, and you've got to separate the business income to what you think about as your...
I think people undervalue not being stressed.
Yeah.
And the comparison of having new nice things to not being stressed. And I've had this in the past where I've thought about getting flashy cars, partly on finance and things, and thought, oh yeah, that'd be really cool because I could afford that paying each month. But then I thought, but then I wouldn't be in as comfortable position to not... And that not having that stress is amazing.
Priceless.
It's priceless. It's literally priceless, isn't it? Yeah. Not coming to work. Well, we obviously have stresses, but that's an additional stress you don't want. And I'd pay a lot of money not to have that stress.
Yeah.
And we do because we don't take it out of the bank.
Yeah. 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 I know we talked about that for a while, but I think that's such a key, especially businesses sort of 1 to 10 people, that the owner does kind of have control of, oh yeah, I'm going to take this out. Oh, I'm going to, I know in big corporate, if you're like, you've got a big corporation, it's going to be much more structured of how you earn money out of the business. But I just know so many people that work on their own that don't separate it and then have these stresses and struggles for years and years that I've known them. And I think you could take all that stress away.
Because I don't think, looking at it, you haven't been really stressed about this.
No, because we've done what we need to set ourselves up for the quieter times.
Yeah.
And, in the future, maybe we will have stresses, maybe we will struggle more. But I feel comfortable now, 6 years in, that when we've gone through a couple of quieter times, especially, with the pandemic, it's been more unpredictable. We've had bigger peaks and bigger troughs than we've ever had before, basically.
Yeah.
It's just great that we've done that. I feel proud of us, Dan.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
You twisted that mic somehow, Lloyd, so turn it better.
Cool. I feel proud of us, Dan.
Good.
So, I think we've done a good job there.
Pat on the back.
Pat on your back, pat on your head. Well done. Lots of pats.
Cool.
I'm happy to wrap it up.
Yeah,
there, Dan.
I'm happy
I think
to wrap it up.
we've saved everyone's businesses.
I want some lunch and I want to go for a walk. So
I'm really hungry. So if you're hungry, listen to the podcast. Let us know. Oh, I nearly went radio DJ then. We haven't had radio DJ for a long time.
In a while.
We haven't for a while. So if you're feeling hungry and you like to eat lunch halfway through the day, do give us a call on 112233. And we'd love to hear your stories. One time I was hungry. It was actually mid-afternoon. And I thought, this doesn't fit nicely into a mealtime. So I had an afternoon snack. If you like afternoon snacks, do let us know on the text, 881199. Thanks. Goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from
Dan.
Blake.